They're long
Hey,
tubes.
Lonnie.
Oh, and I'm on.
All right, so welcome to United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. Once again, we're back on site in Jenny Jump State Park in Hope, New Jersey. So, welcome all who's come here to join us in person, and also hello to everyone who's joining us on live, because that is right, we are live streaming this on YouTube and Twitch. So, if you ever can't make it out or you're wondering what to do on a rainy night, we still live stream, even if we can't be in up here. So you can always hit those like and subscribe buttons on YouTube and join us and say hi there. While I see a whole bunch of people just wandering in, I'll g- I'll give them a little bit of time to settle down. Do check us out on our website, uacnj.org. That's where you're going to find a list of all our upcoming presentations we've already had, as well as links to our member clubs. Because that's right, our club is actually made up of other astronomy clubs. So we love to get people in touch with their local astronomy club because chances are they're going to have much more detailed advice for viewing in your area. So when in doubt, always check out your local astronomy clubs and give those our member clubs a like and follow as well. In addition, you can check us out on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a Discord channel that you can post your astrophotography photos or even ask questions or about various gear or what other people have. All right, so now we come to the safety briefing for everyone who's here. I know, the most thrilling part of the evening. If you need to use the bathroom, that is the porta potty to the back, to my left, your right. In the door, also to my left and your right, that's more toward off to the side of me, surrounded in the red rope light. That's where you're going to find our museum and gift shop that you can go check out, our meteorite display and whatnot. Each of those white sheds that you see has a roll-off roof and houses a telescope. So if you see one that is open, feel free to ask the volunteer that is running it what they have up in their telescope, and they'll be more than happy to answer any questions about that as well. That being said, when we go to leave, we use our headlights because we don't like getting run over. We ask that you also use your headlights because you do not want to run people over. Right. And if we have any flashlights, do keep them pointed towards the ground. That'll just prevent any unnecessary blinding incidents that we have. So, tonight's program is What's Up in the August Sky with our longtime speaker, Lonny Buinis. Lonny has been presenting the What's Up series at UACNJ since it opened in 1994. He's been an amateur astronomer since the Stone Age. He still has his first telescope and holds a couple degrees from Stevens Institute of Technology in physics and computer science, but thinks practical experience also holds much weight in today's world. Lonny has written a couple of books now.
Well, one.
I thought you were almost done with the second one.
No, not yet.
Soon.
A novel and a science book.
Soon.
Yes.
There's more to come, which he'll shamelessly promote all of those towards the end, as well as his interactive 3D space objects that he has animated, which also contains narration from his wife, Jan, who keeps his feet firmly planted on the ground while his head's up in the clouds. With that, Lonny.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kim. Oh, thank you. And you haven't heard me say anything yet. I could stink. Well, I hope not. We'll see. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm very
That's what
glad.
they make deodorant for, Lonny.
Yes. Been doing this a long time, since the founding of UACNJ, and I hope to continue to do it for a lot longer. Some of what's up in the August sky is right here on this cover slide, and that's, if you look straight up, you look for the meridian line running between north and south. Can you see that every night when you go out? No, I put that in there. That doesn't exist. So I might be fooling you tonight. You can fact check me, make sure that I'm telling you the truth. I may make up a few things. We're going to be looking for constellations, star pictures. We're going to be looking for bright stars like Vega and some planets and some deep sky objects. So let's start with a little news. OnThisDay.com, easy to remember, tells you what happens on this day. And you can search by subject, by day, month, and year. So in 1989, on this day, NASA launched a probe to Venus. First launch from the space shuttle. And in 2011, they launched the Juno probe to study the planet Jupiter, and it's still there, still working, and its moons and moons of Jupiter. So if you want to find out what's going on, what's up in August or any time of the year, go to go-astronomy.com and look for the events calendar, and you'll get the whole year at once. But I'm just going to focus on what month is it? August, thank you. Audience participation is not punished. So we are either blessed or cursed, depending on your viewpoint, to have count them, two supermoons this month. How is that even possible? How can you have two full moons in 1 month? Well, as the moon moves around the Earth in 27 1/3 days, the Earth's moving around the sun. So if you look at the phases of the moon, it takes a little longer, about 29 and a half. 29 and a half, let's see. Average length of the month, 30 or 31 days. So 29 and a half fits in there. That's why we've got two this month. Happens every once in a while. What doesn't happen is a moon and the speaker making a mistake. That never happens. So what's a supermoon? Well, the moon moves around the Earth not in a circle, but a slightly squashed circle called an ellipse. Thank you, Paul. In fact, I'm going to rely on Paul. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask for audience participation again. So please don't make me pick unnecessarily on poor Paul. So the moon is moving around in an ellipse. That means in some places it's closer to Earth than others. And that close point is called a perigee. The way I remember them, apogee, A for away, and perigee, P for pretty close. So what's the difference? Can you see the difference between a regular moon and a supermoon? Well, if you've got sharp eyesight, it's a very slight difference in the distance, so slight difference in the angular size of the moon, and maybe 16% brighter, 1/6. Are we going to notice that? I don't. I've been studying the sky for years. I don't see the difference, but maybe some of you who can take pictures of the moon could do that now, and again when the moon is normal. So we've got this happening at the beginning and the end of the month, and at the end of the month, because it's the second time, this happens once in a, don't make Paul do it, please. Thank you. Blue moon, right. A blue moon happens when we have two full moons in a month, or when the moon turns blue. Does it? Can it? Yep, it did. When the Krakatoa eruption happened, a volcano blew up over Krakatoa in the 19th century. For weeks, the moon looked blue coming through particulate smoke. We've got smoke coming from Canada, so take a look and see if you see unusual colors on the moon as it rises. You want to find out about the moon, go to moongiant.com. I don't know why they call it Moon Giant. Oh, I know. Because if you read the sensational news on the web, the supermoon is the biggest you'll ever see. It blots the sky. It's so big and bright, right? No. No, that's the difference. So don't listen to the exaggerations. You can see the current phase of the moon at moongiant.com. You can get information about the moon, moon lore, moon calendar. This is what it looks like. And here's the calendar, which I really love because you can all at once see the main phases, the most important phases of the moon. And those would be when the moon was full 4 days ago. Is that a good time to see anything else in the sky? No. Paul is right. I don't hear anybody else.
It's great if you're looking for bats.
Bats. Right. So if you're a bat phobe, no, bat phil, if you have batophilia, I don't know if that's the right word, great time to see bats when the moon is full, lots of light. Terrible time to see faint objects like nebulas, clouds, gas clouds, star clusters, forget it. Faint stars, forget it. A good time to do that is when the moon is new, right? So the moon is dark, it's close to the sun in the sky, can't see it. Good time for faint stuff. That's the middle of the month. In between, if you want to see craters on the moon, details, you want to do it when the light is raking across the mountains and the craters to get shadows. And the best time is at quarter phases. So this one, I don't know if anybody's going to want to do this one. Last quarter moon, the moon is moving towards the sun in the morning sky. Anybody get up at 5 in the morning? A few people, right? Now you can see the last quarter moon. If you don't like that, if you like to see the first quarter moon when the sun is setting in the evening sky, do it later in the month, the 24th. And finally, full moon again, the blue moon. And in moongiant.com, they actually tinted the moon a little bit blue. Is it going to look blue? Probably not. So that's moongiant.com. I like to get the names of the full moon, changes month to month. These are from Wikipedia. We've got the sturgeon moon, or the full red moon, or the corn moon, or the green moon. Right? Sturgeon, good time to catch sturgeon. That was named by the Algonquin Native Americans. And some of these names do come from Native Americans. Some are detailed in this old book used by the Boy Scouts. And those are the first names you see here. Harvest moon. Harvest moon. Why? Harvest season, you can actually keep harvesting after the sun goes down because you've got the light of the full moon. Cool. So check that out. I went to Wikipedia to find out about moon names. Now, where would you look for the new moon and when? This is a trick question. Uh-oh. You didn't know that there were trick questions? Paul did, probably. But where are you going to find the new moon? Well, in Stellarium, which is a free computer program that I'm going to use in a few minutes, free to use, you can all use it. You would look here, and you can actually see it just barely by the glare of the sun. The moon orbits the Earth. It seems to go close to the sun every once in a while. If it crosses the sun, we have an eclipse. Why don't we have an eclipse every month, though? If the moon's going around the Earth, let's say it was lined up with the Earth's equator, it should hit the sun every time, right? Every month. Well, not only is it an ellipse, but the moon's orbit is tipped to the Earth's equator. So it misses the sun, but the whole orbit precesses around every 82 years or so. So there's a solar cycle. We get eclipses 5 times a year, solar and lunar. So that's where you look for the new moon, in the daytime sky. Can you see it? No, it's too hazy. Mercury, innermost planet, first planet from the sun. My very educated mother just served us 9. Right, we don't have Pluto anymore. What are we going to do? We have to make up a new acronym. Mercury is the first one. It's so close to the sun, it's hard to see. If you do want to see it, on August 10th, 5 days from now, look in the west. Actually, you go outside, look for the letter W, right? No, west. West at Jenny Jump is where the sun sets, that way. All right, so we're going to get our bearings. Look in the west, very low, just some 18 degrees or so above the ground. And in a small telescope, you might see a phase the way Galileo did 400 years ago. All right, so it's a phase partway between quarter and full. And we call that, no relation to monkeys or apes, we call that a gibbous moon, not a gibbon moon. Gibbous moon, or gibbous Mercury, or gibbous phase. Venus also goes through phases. So that's where this is a great time to find Mercury, when it's east of the sun. So facing south, west is on your right, east is which way? The other way. So if Mercury's east of the sun, that means it's an evening star. Mercury can be seen in the morning sky too. Goes around the sun so fast, 88 days, that it's in no time at all, it'll be in the morning sky. Biggest event of this month, if you forget everything else I've said today, try to remember the meteor shower, the big one of the year. Two big ones. Around Christmas, the Geminids from Gemini. In August, every year we go through the debris field of a comet, and it's called the Perseids because it seems to come from Perseus. Perseus, the hero of legend. August 12th to 13th is the peak, but this shower runs much longer. It's debris from Comet Swift-Tuttle. This is a big comet, 16 miles across. Halley's Comet, the one that came by before a lot of you were born. Some of us might have a chance to see it again. Comes back in the year 2061, every 76 years or so. This big comet is several times the size of Halley's at almost 7 miles. This one is 16. So it's a big mountain, big chunk of rock. And it comes nowhere near us, but right there in this diagram, the blue orbit is Earth, and every once in a while, every 133 years, the comet comes close to us. It leaves a debris field that we pass through every year. So the orbit is still there with all the debris. And when that debris comes to us through the atmosphere between July 14th and early September, go out. If you miss the peak, keep going out every night. Look for meteors. You still have a chance to see them. Then we see meteors, a shower. Peak August 13th at about 4 in the morning. So the later you stay up, the better a chance you have to see something. But you don't have to. For those of us, I see young people in the audience, like myself, have to go to bed early, you can still see them. The shower sometimes goes as high as 200 per hour, but usually in dark skies you might see one a minute. I have a big but there. That doesn't sound right. I put in a qualifying word, but it's hard to see that many if you don't have a dark sky. We're lucky here at Jenny Jump to have one of the darkest sites in New Jersey, UACNJ Observatory. Very dark skies. You can see the Milky Way. You can see meteor showers when there's no haze and when there's no street lights and city lights, which we don't have here because we're a state park. So the point is, go out, even if you see one meteor in an hour, you've seen a meteor. What is it? It's a little sand grain burning up in the Earth's atmosphere because it's coming in about 5 miles per second. The entire Earth's atmosphere, the troposphere, the thickest part is 5 miles, goes through that in a second. So it's rubbing against the Earth so vigorously, burns up, and it leaves a trail. The radiant is where they seem to come from the head of the constellation Perseus. Looks just like a hero holding the head of Medusa, right? Good imagine. Is Paul the only one with a good imagination? I'm sorry to keep picking on Paul. It's hard to say, picking on Paul. Yeah. Rest of you, when you come back for what's up in September, don't sit there. Yeah, the radiant is where they seem to come out from a point. They spread out all over the sky. So if they're coming in a parallel track on the orbit, why do they spread out? Well, just like the Garden State Parkway, with those annoying lanes that are too close together, darn it! Or railroad tracks, they seem to meet in the distance. They don't. They're really always parallel. But it's an illusion. Look for the radiant coming up late. Wee hours, rich and steady, and very colorful sometimes, with long trails. This is unusual. Most meteors, you'll see them fraction of a second and they disappear. These might last a second or more, if you're lucky. Where to look? Well, if you're up at midnight, I know a lot of us can't stay up that late, Perseus will be fully up above the horizon, maybe blocked by trees, maybe blocked by houses. Where I live, that's the problem. But that's where they'll seem to start from. So the question is, how do you observe a meteor shower? What's the best way? You don't have to wait for the radiant to come up. You need some specialized equipment, very expensive. I want you all to go out, rush out there and buy a telescope with a mirror 24 inches in diameter or bigger, right? No. Do you need binoculars, like giant binoculars like this? What? No, no. See, I told you I'd be lying tonight. No, what you do need is this and one of these, and you got to watch out for these. This is in Manitoba. They've got the world's biggest mosquito model. If you want to see the model of a mosquito about this big, go to the Museum of Natural History in New York. Very cool. Somebody went to the trouble to put thousands of pieces together. It looks exactly like a mosquito blown up about 1,000 times. So, bug spray, lawn chair, and the naked eye. That's the best way to see meteors. Lie back on a lawn chair, spray yourself good, look over the entire sky for meteors coming all over from the northeast, which here in Jenny Jump is that way, all over the sky. On late August, toward the end of the month, August 27th, Saturn, the planet Saturn, is at opposition, opposite. What does that mean? That means that the Sun and the Earth and Saturn all line up in a straight line. Saturn and Earth are on the same side of the Sun in their orbits, so they're at minimum distance from each other. Saturn about 10 times further from the Sun than Earth. Earth is 1 times the Earth distance. That's called an astronomical unit by astronomers, abbreviated AU, astronomical unit, about 93 million miles. Miles are useless in the solar system. Saturn is like 900 million miles, almost 1 billion miles away. And those are a lot of zeros. I can't keep track of them, so we use AUs instead. So the distance from Earth to Saturn is 10 minus 1. Mathematicians in the audience? 9. 9 times 8 1/3 minutes, 72, 75 minutes. So we're looking at Saturn 75 minutes in the past, 1 hour and a quarter as it used to look in the past. The further away you look in space, the further back in time you look. Cool. Very confusing when you look at distant galaxies. I got that picture from Celestia, which is a free computer program that lets you fly out to other planets and see what the rings of Saturn would look like from a hotel on its moon Iapetus. There's only 2 places in the solar system where you can see the rings of Saturn open, like this, tilted. And that's from Iapetus, one of Saturn's moons. And also, there's another place. What is it called? Who said that? It wasn't Paul. Give that man a hand. Thank you, sir. Yes, Earth. Earth and Saturn are the only planets you can see Saturn's rings open, because as we move around the sun, Saturn does this over 29 years, which is how long it takes to go around the sun. And that's where you find Saturn tonight, not far from my astrological sign, Capricornus, the sea goat. Looks just like a goat. Saturn is in Aquarius. That means amongst the stars. It's not in the stars. It's not near the stars. It's about 75 light minutes away. The stars are light years away. Years. Thousands of times further away. And that's where you look for a bright, untwinkling star, yellowish in color, leaden and slow moving. So our ancestors called it Saturn or Cronus, after the god of time, the slow moving father of Jupiter. And the moon will be out there on August 27th, ruining everything, but not Saturn, because Saturn is bright. Now, before I've delayed showing you what the sky looks like in real time, which we can do with a computer program, because I was waiting for the sky to get darker to make it easier to see the slides. However, tonight there's a lot of haze, so it doesn't matter. I can just briefly zoom through these pictures so we can get to the fun part, the interactive part. That's what our sky looks like low in the south, the coolest part of the sky, because that's where the sun, moon, and planets pass through. And those signs, those constellations, are special. They mark out the path of the sun, and they're called the zodiac. You've heard of those, right? Astrology, zodiac. Virgo, Libra, Scorpius, Sagittarius, Capricornus. Scorpius is the scorpion, right? You can tell from the name. Sagittarius is shooting Sagitta, the arrow, half man, half horse. This is the best time of year to see these constellations. Do it quick on a dark night. Go out now in July, August, September. It's the only time you can see them because they're so low that as the earth spins, it carries them into the ground very quickly. So that's why I'm emphasizing these constellations tonight. I'm going to talk a lot more about them in just a few minutes. Note the Milky Way rising above the teapot spout like steam. And here, right above the teapot spout, is a tiny little cloud. It looks like a detached piece of the Milky Way. I saw that years ago here at Jenny Jump with my naked eye. It's a star birthplace. Stars are being born in this nebula, which means gas cloud. Now you can call somebody nebulous. You know what that means? Give you a hint. It's an insult. Yeah, don't be nebulous. If you look up higher in the south, we will see a letter H and 3 stars that make a triangle, seen best in the summer. You'll never guess what we call these 3 stars in a triangle seen in the summer. Whoa! All right, so there are many more people who are getting bold. Paul and this gentleman behind him are not the only ones. Your name is Dave. Very brave of you to name yourself Dave. I'll be referring everyone to Dave for questions later. If you look right here, my favorite object high in the sky this time of year is the head of the swan, Cygnus, and that is a star called Albireo. Albireo is a beautiful double star with gorgeous color differences, cyan or bluish and golden orangish. You can see that in a small telescope, Albireo. So when you go to see the astronomers over there, and they have their telescopes out, ask them to show you Albireo. Don't know if we'll see it tonight. In this vicinity also are these globs. I like to call them globs. It's not the scientific name. I'm very disappointed. But they are a cluster of stars in the shape of a globe, so you'll never guess what astronomers call them. Go ahead. Globular cluster. Whoa, thank you. Another bold participant. Thank you, ma'am. Globular cluster. There are thousands of these orbiting our Milky Way galaxy in all different angles. They are very old, about 10 billion years old. And you can see 2 of them in Hercules, very high in the sky. The other one in a constellation that I've been mispronouncing my entire life for about a half a century. I've been calling it Canis Venatici. It's a Venatici. Canis Venatici, M3. The hunting dogs, Canis. Hercules is the hero. We can find him tonight. Right nearby him, moving over towards the east, I'm going to end my presentation tonight in a little while with a preview of what's up in the September sky. The big, giant, great square, which is called the, say it louder. Go ahead, shout it. Thank you, the Great Square. The Great Square of Pegasus, the upside-down flying horse, and the Andromeda Galaxy. Yeah, very astronomers, boy, are they creative or what? You know, that's what I like about astronomical jargon. You can kind of figure it out. Right there.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
The most distant thing in the universe that you can see. Check it out. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records, 2.6 million light years away. So we're seeing it as it looked over 2.5 million years ago. However, Galaxies live for billions of years. That's thousands of millions. So 2.5 compared to several thousand million is nothing. We're seeing the Andromeda Galaxy as it looked in the past with its 2 satellites, and we can see that with the naked eye. Yeah. Yep. Cool. Very cool. It's about 5 times the size of the moon in diameter, and it'll be coming up that way. For reference, I refer you to say after me, UACNIDGE. UACNIDGE. Right. United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey has a lot of good references, upcoming events, other talks than mine, free to the public every Saturday, April through October. Otherwise, it's too cold. Magazines. Does anybody still read in the audience? Don't be embarrassed. Raise your hand. Anybody still read? Just a few people. Anybody still read paper magazines? Oh, bold. Okay. Online, Sky and Telescope and Astronomy are written at the layperson level. Like me, I'm a layperson. I'm not a professional astronomer. I've been doing this a long time, but I'm not professional. I do it for love. So these are in print. They're online. You can subscribe, but a large part of their sites are free. Now, the question is it dark enough yet for me to show you an interactive sky? Well, this is not my dog, but this is. And she was here earlier today. She's hanging out in the car. So let's find out what's up. And I'm going to use a program called Stellarium. It is free at stellarium.org. And right now the sky looks like this. Stellarium simulates the sky in real time. You can change the time, you can speed it up, you could slow it down, you could go backwards, you could go back into the past to see the Star of Bethlehem in 7 BC, you could go forward to the future to see the eclipse, the total eclipse of the sun. Anybody hear about this? Next April 8th, don't miss it. All the way from Mexico through Texas, all the way on up through upstate New York. I'm taking my dog and my wife to Watertown, New York. Let's see, what else? All sorts. It goes through a lot of different states. Check it out online. Look up eclipses. So what can we do in Stellarium? We can move the sky around just like a planisphere, which Kim will be happy to sell to you later, or one of our astronomy members in our gift shop. Planisphere is a movable star chart in the form of a circle, so you can see the sky any time of day, night, or year. But in Stellarium, we can zoom in. We're not limited to the size or the angle. We can also change the time, and I'm going to start in the north. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to turn here at Jenny Jump, look over the house for the letter N, right? Did I fool you again? No letter N. You can put it on and turn it off in Stellarium.
One of these days, I'm going to have posted cardinal directions, and I'm going to make a liar. I'm not going to tell you first.
Maybe we can put a big letter N on the building. So I'd like to start in the north to get oriented, because those are easy to find. Those constellations or star groups are always up. So I can change time from 2033. 20, what's 20 minus 12? 8:33, that's the time right now. Let's go to 9:33. And suddenly the sky is much darker. In the north, the Perseids coming up. The head of Perseus is down below. The Queen Cassiopeia is above, looking like a letter W. Having trouble seeing any of this? Well, so am I. So we can cheat and do what a star chart does and turn on lines. I call them by the technical term lines. Yeah, I'll be using a lot of jargon tonight. So if there's anything that's not clear, just say, "Hey, cut it out." If I zoom out a little, we can see all 5 of the constellations that circle the North Star. You can find the North Star by finding the 8 stars, pardon me, in the Big Dipper, which is not a constellation. Do you see the whole constellation? Ursa Major. Let's do that again. There it is. You going to see this in the real sky? I hope not. No hallucinations. Wow, I marked a satellite by accident. So, Big Dipper is part of a constellation. That's called an asterism. Aster, star, ism. A picture made of stars, asterism. If it's a constellation, it's a special group, one of 88. If you ever forget how many constellations there are, if you're a piano player, count the keys on a piano. Paul knows this. Are you a piano player? Okay. Yeah, so piano keys, same as official constellations. Did they do that on purpose? I don't think so. I said 8 stars in the Big Dipper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where's the 8th? Look in the handle, the bend right there. Famous visual double, Mizar and Alcor. They are not connected by gravity, just an accidental alignment. One's in front of the other from where we look at them. Big Dipper points with the pointer stars, Merak and Dubhe, 5 times their distance apart. So in the sky, we use angles, 5 degrees between Merak and Dubhe. So if you want to see an angle of 5 degrees, make a fist and hold it at arm's length. And no matter how old or young you are, how big or tall, doesn't matter. It's going to be about 5 degrees, and go 5 fists over from the Big Dipper, and you'll see the North Star. Polaris, because the Earth's North Pole, as the Earth spins, it's like a top. It has a North Pole, it has a South Pole. North Pole points to the North Star. The South Pole points to the South Star, right? No. Is there a South Star? No. For those of you who've traveled to the Southern Hemisphere, there's a Southern Cross that points to the south. So, people in the Southern Hemisphere, we have a pole star and you don't. Now, these stars circle round and round the North Pole. The Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, the Queen Cassiopeia, the King Cepheus. Draco is a dragon, longest constellation in the sky. It used to be Scorpius thousands of years ago, but they cut the claws off to make Libra the scales. And because the Earth is spinning like a top at an angle, it's also, did you know it's wobbling like this? Yeah, very slowly. Can you feel it? No. It's very slow. If you've ever been to Switzerland, there's a clock that has a movement that takes 25,000 years to go around once. Very big gear. I can't imagine. That's called precession. And that's why the signs of the zodiac have been knocked up from 12 to 13. The path of the sun's been moved. And the North Pole Star moved back thousands of years ago. Here's where it was. I hit a satellite by accident. Whoops. Let's try that one. That's the star. Well, I'm trying to find it, but it won't let me. The star Thuban was our pole star thousands of years ago. The Polaris is now, and thousands of years from now, we'll have a bright pole star called Vega or Vega. Summer star. We'll look for Vega in just a few moments. These are circumpolar constellations. They're the easiest to find if you don't have trees. They're always up, always visible from New Jersey. The further away you go from the pole, the longer and longer it takes for things to rise and set. In the west, stars are disappearing. The Earth is rotating, right? Rotating to the east. Everything seems to go the other way. And so if you want to find the bright star Arcturus, you have to do it before it disappears in the trees. Take the Big Dipper's handle and arc to Arcturus, orange, bright, supergiant star, about the 4th brightest in the sky. And it does have a color, orange, not in stellarium, but to the naked eye. Very cool. Your eye can see star temperatures. Did you know that? The sun is yellowish, that's average temperature. Arcturus is cooler. It's only oven hot, maybe 900, 1,000 degrees. It's nothing compared to a New Jersey summer. But the sun, about 10,000, And bright stars like Spica, the blue star, arc to Arcturus, speed to Spica in Virgo, that can be 20,000 degrees. In other words, pretty darn hot. Again, I think New Jersey summers are much worse. If we crawl along the bottom, the horizon, the boundary between sky and ground, and look for the letter S, which you won't see in the real sky, remember that? That's where we're going to find the zodiac constellations, and they are big. In the real sky, everything has a big angle. Sometimes you have to turn your head to see a whole constellation. Don't forget, we're compressing everything down onto a flat screen or on a star chart on a flat piece of paper. So it not only shrinks it, but it distorts it, right? So on the edges of a star map, things are distorted. It's not the way you're going to see it in the real sky. That's why it's fun to use computer programs. Here is the Scorpion with its bright red star Antares. You see where the name comes from. The god of war was Ares to the Greeks. The Romans called it the red planet. Mars, right, Mars. Antares, Ares, the rival, against. Ares, Mars, the rival of Mars, because every once in a while the planet Mars passes right above our Antares, and you have two red rivals. The way you tell them apart, stars like Antares twinkle. Planets generally don't. Planets send you so much light to your eye, that it activates more than one cone in your eye. You have cells in your eye called cones. Are they shaped like ice cream cones? Kinda. But stars are so far away, the light beam is so narrow that it hits only one cone in your eye. Even the slightest air current can disturb that. That's why stars twinkle. Planets generally don't twinkle unless they're very, very low in the sky. So see if you can see the Scorpion this summer, this month before it disappears. Move over, you might see the Milky Way rising, crossing the entire sky from south to north. It's a beautiful time of year to see the Milky Way, especially from dark places like New York State, away from city lights. Here at UACNJ, Pennsylvania has a lot of good dark sites, and the drive is not too far to see them. Fun thing to find if you want to find the heart of our Milky Way, which has a multi-million mass black hole at its heart. You would look right here above the teapot. We amateur astronomers call this the teapot. See the shape? Spout, 3 stars for the lid, 4 for the handle. Rising above the spout, the steam, the Milky Way. Little detached piece right there. So where's that black hole? Somewhere in here. Can you see it? Let's zoom in. See the black hole? No. Why? Why can't you see the black hole? It's black. Right. It's invisible. It absorbs light. Not even light. Light can't even get out of a black hole. As light travels, it has energy. E equals mc squared. E divided by c squared equals mass. So light has a mass, energy type mass. They call it mass energy. Physicists, boy, they have all kinds of names. So it does have an attraction from gravity. Gravity pulls it in. Nothing gets out of a black hole, except over time. Black holes can evaporate. So you're not going to see that, but you will see a place where stars are being born. The Lagoon Nebula, zooming way in. Lagoon Nebula with a lagoon of dark dust going down the middle. That dust one day may collapse to become planets. How do we know? We can actually watch stars forming in this nebula, this gas cloud. It's glowing red from hydrogen gas. And farther above, there's another nebula, multicolored, hydrogen red, and young blue stars glowing very hot like Spica in Virgo, burning their energy not in billions of years like the sun, but in only a few million. They burn out fast, but they light up the gas that made them, the gas that will someday collapse to make more stars like them, or stars like the sun that live longer, or red dwarf stars that live even longer than the sun. Blue, beautiful. This is the 3-lobed nebula, split into 3 parts by dark lanes of dust. So it's called the Trifid Nebula, or Trifid. Beautiful gas clouds in this part of the sky. Great place to look for things like this, or star clusters like this. Groups of stars bound by gravity with each other, moving together through space. Very cool. There's a lot of these kinds of objects in the summer sky. And that's just one place you can see these. The other is up higher, higher, climbing the Milky Way. You'll find the 13th sign of the zodiac, the guy who holds serpent's caput and serpent's cauda, the tail of the serpent, the head of the serpent. This is an unusual constellation split into 2. So while there are 88 constellations, there's 89 pieces. And this is the serpent bearer Ophiuchus. And the sun, the moon, the planets actually pass through here. So traditional astrology does not take that into account. Next time you go to your astrologer, complain. High above in the sky, way up, as far as you can look, the overhead point is labeled by a name that begins with the letter Z. Anybody? Zenith, the Zenith. There used to be a television set company who made television sets called Zenith. I know because I'm old, I remember. Probably don't make those anymore. But if you can find the Zenith, you could find the letter H for Hercules, famous hero. Hercules is traditionally drawn upside down. Don't ask me why, I don't know. This is Greek mythology. In Stellarium, you can choose one of a couple dozen different sky cultures. Native American, Australian, back in time, made up by H.A. Ray, who invented a whole different group. All kinds of fun. Hercules, one of his labors was to find a crown, get a king's crown, Corona Borealis. If you want to find a deep sky object like a nebula or a star cluster, I mentioned a special kind of star cluster that I like to call a glob, because it's a big glob of stars. You would do that and ask astronomers to help you here, the amateur astronomers. You might see one of these, if I can catch it. What's that? Starlink. Yeah, there's thousands of these Starlink satellites. The new ones are stealth mode. They actually paint them black. They reflect light a lot less. They're shaped specially so they don't interfere with the astronomers, poor astronomers. They're trying to take pictures of the sky. They get ruined, those long exposure pictures with satellites racing through and leaving streaks. So they're trying to compensate. So tonight, or on a clear night, find the constellation Hercules, look on his right side, start at the top and go down a third of the way, or at the bottom and go up 2/3. With a pair of binoculars, you'll see a fuzzy blob. I like to call this by the scientific name, fuzzy blob. It's also a glob, but actually the proper name is globular cluster. In a small telescope, you'll see dozens of stars. In a large telescope, hundreds. The Hubble Space Telescope sees 500,000 stars. This is one of the biggest globular clusters in the sky. Messier 13, number 13. Messier was looking for comets, so he made a list of things that were not comets, that looked like comets, those darn things that kept getting in the way, like globular clusters and star clusters and nebulas and planetary nebulas, darn them. Do you know why we remember Messier now? It's like my mother said, never throw anything out. Might be useful. We remember Messier for 104 things that he threw out. Made a list. There's another one nearby, M92, and another one in Canis Venatici, but this one's easy to find in Hercules. That's a deep sky object, a star cluster in the shape of a globe, globular. We've seen a lot. I don't want to confuse everybody or get you disoriented, so I'm going to wrap things up by looking over to the east of Hercules. So if you're looking high, move your head to the left and find 3 stars in a giant triangle, 3 separate constellations. Cygnus, Aquila, and Lyra. Lyra the lyre. What's a Lyre? Musical instrument, like a harp. Aquila is an eagle with its bright star Altair. Altair made famous for science fiction fans in the movie Forbidden Planet. Cygnus, the swan, almost looks like a swan, sort of a cross shape. And I mentioned the Lyra. Vega in Lyra, 25 light years away. Altair is close, also about 16, and Deneb is about 1400, much further, but it's a super giant bright star. Summer triangle. Some of the most fun things to find are here. In the middle of the triangle, you can find a little constellation in the shape of an arrow. Hard to see with the Milky Way on. Tell you what, we can turn off the Milky Way or we can make it less bright. You can customize everything. There's a famous asterism right in the middle of this area. There's Sagitta, the arrowhead. And right nearby, ask someone with binoculars or a small telescope, doesn't need to be big, to find something you find hanging in a coat closet. See it? Right there. Upside down, the coat hanger. Coat hanger. That's not a constellation. That's an asterism. And again, nearby nebula, all sorts of beautiful things to see in the sky. We have a lot of experts here who know a lot more about finding these things than I do. So do ask a lot of questions. There's no penalty for asking questions. You may be escorted forcibly from the premises, but no penalty. Again, the bright star Albireo, Beta Cygni, second brightest star in Cygnus, is a famous double star, blue and gold. Not in stellarium, the colors are rather weak, but it's extraordinary to the eye. You do need a telescope to see these. Beautiful color to the double star Albireo. The first discovered X-ray source and black hole, Cygnus X1, is right about there. Can you see it? No. Okay, good. We learned something. Can't see a black hole. That's the summer triangle. Lots to see in the Milky Way, rising like a cloud of steam right through. Ending our interactive session tonight, this huge constellation. You have to move your head from side to side to see all of it. It's enormous. It's a huge square called the Great Square. The Great Square for Pegasus the Flying Horse. See the horse head? Poor Pegasus got chopped off a long time ago to make the Princess Andromeda from the movie Clash of the Titans. If you didn't read the book is been in the library for 3,000 years. You have no excuse if you didn't read the story. Perseus and Andromeda, no. See the movie at least. There's two versions, one from the 60s and one more recent. Liam Neeson is in the new one. So poor Andromeda was chained to the rocks waiting to be rescued. Nowadays, we can find the most distant thing in the universe by going from this star 2 over and 2 up. 1, 2 over, 1, 2 up. If you have a dark sky, look for a little letter Y, and look for a fuzzy cloud like that. In binoculars, it's beautiful. Small telescope might show you one of the satellite galaxies, just like we do. Our Milky Way has small satellites, 2 bright ones called the Magellanic Clouds. If ever any of you visit the southern hemisphere, look for the clouds of Magellan, small galaxies that have passed through ours long ago and will be swallowed up by the Milky Way eventually. Andromeda is even bigger than the Milky Way. Milky Way has 1 trillion stars. That's 1 followed by 12 zeros. Andromeda is even bigger. It has satellite galaxies too that it is swallowing up, but it looks a lot like our galaxy would from Andromeda. We would see dark lanes of dust, bright gas lit up blue from young stars, red from older stars. And someday, not too far from now, we're going to merge with Andromeda. So get ready, get your emergency supplies, because it's going to happen in only 5, yes, count them, 5 billion years. Yeah, it takes a long time for galaxies to merge with each other. The Milky Way has swallowed up dozens of small ones. There are still some of them that are orbiting us, very minor, especially the Magellanic Clouds. So not to worry, it takes a long time. And nothing's going to collide. Everything is so far apart in a galaxy, the stars are just going to zoom past each other, just like Star Trek. So look for that in the east. I'll be talking about that again next month in What's Up in the September Sky. Yes. Yeah, thank you, thank you. If you don't get it right, then Paul or Dave are going to correct you, so watch out. So that's Stellarium. I'm going to go back and I'm going to wrap things up with some free stuff. I always like free stuff. You can download and install Stellarium from stellarium.org. You can run it without installing anything on their website with their supercomputers at stellarium-web.org, or you can get it on your mobile device for free, Android or iOS, Stellarium Mobile. I do have some news. Did you hear about the Janus star? Janus was the Roman god, the two-faced. Two faces, also represented in theater. You ever see the theater masks, tragedy, comedy? Janus. Janus is a moon of Saturn, and it's also now a brand newly discovered star in Cygnus. Has mostly helium on one side, darker, hydrogen brighter on the other. It's burning its fuel unevenly, and they're not sure why. They think it's a weird thing where the magnetic field gets twisted up. Our sun has a magnetic field, and it does twist slowly as the sun rotates every 30 days. This star is rotating every 15 minutes because, like a ballet dancer, as its original star shrank, it ran out of fuel, its outer layers exploded out to make a planetary nebula, just like our sun will do someday. The core shrank down to the size of a planet, not 800,000 miles wide, but 8,000 like the Earth. A very compact, fast-spinning dwarf star. And so something happened to its magnetic field, twisted it up, and became irregular. So they're not really sure, but they're very fascinated by this newly discovered Janus star, which goes by the easy-to-remember name. Everybody, wait, we got to do this together. You ready? Together. ZTF. I don't hear anybody. ZTF J2033. Forget it. Janus star is good enough. So let's do a review before we go on out there and trip in the dark. I'm going to ask you to be careful. Use a low light. Direct it down. Don't shine it into anyone's eyes because that's night blindness. We've got two super moons, full in the beginning of the month, full at the end. We have 2 planets, Mercury early, Saturn late. The new moon, great time to see faint stuff in the middle of the month. And please don't forget the meteor shower. What day to go out and look? The best day? 12th and 13th, midnight. Stay up. If you can't stay up late, go out there, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. As soon as it gets dark, look for meteors. Where do you look for meteors? What part of the sky? Everywhere. Right. Before you go, I do have an interactive 3D Planet Mars you can play with. It's cheap. The 4K version's cheap. The HD version is free. It's got videos with my wife's narration, who I haven't paid her yet. Shameful. Short, snappy videos with music and special effects. Don't miss it. Check it out at Mars at your fingertips. You can get it there. You can see other free virtual reality planets you can play with, like the Mercury, Moon, and Saturn. I'll be adding that. You can contact me at Lonny Buinis at gmail.com. And I want to thank you for being such a good audience. Don't forget, we're on Instagram, we're on Discord, we're everywhere. YouTube, UACNage. Repeat after me, UACNage. Thank you. You've been a great audience.
All right. Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, everyone who's joined us. So, we're going to be having a question and answer session because I'm sure, just like me, people have questions. But before that, I know a couple of you were sneaking in during the presentation and missed the safety briefing. So I need to go over that. When we leave here, we are using our headlights. We do not like getting run over, and I am sure you will appreciate the same courtesy extended to you. If you need to use the bathroom, that is the porta potty in the back to my left, your right. It's illuminated by red. We also have a little museum area and gift shop area in the door. It's outlined in red to again to my left. We are a volunteer organization, so if you have any questions, go find someone with the name tag. I think we have an observatory or two open. If not, we do have a couple people with their telescopes out, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to tell you what they're looking at or doing. All right, so how our question and answer session is going to work is, for the people here, I am night blind because I've been staring at an online chat using my handheld internet. I cannot see very well. I am like a T-Rex. My vision is based on movement now. So, you're going to raise your hand in the air and just wave it around like you just don't care, because then I will actually be able to see you. Also, keep your hand up until I find you and hand you the microphone so you can ask your question into the microphone. Because if you have that question, chances are someone has the same question, but might be too shy to ask. So, I'm going to start this off by our first online question. Has there ever been a supermoon that is also a blue moon and a blood moon, like where it's red because of an eclipse?
Ooh, I don't know. I have to look that up, but it is possible, just very rare. So, like we have a supermoon the end of the month, you know what? We actually have a good chance for that to happen because of all the particulates from Canada. So, do go out and check it at the end of the month.
All right, again, so people here, is there a question? Oh, perfect.
So, so first, James Webb, most amazing thing ever. But what is the oldest thing, do you happen to know, to date that we can see? Like, how far back can we see?
Oh, very good question. The James Webb Space Telescope, because it's coated in pure gold, is very well tuned to the infrared, which is longer wavelengths of light, which penetrate clouds and see better further back in time. So astronomers finally, for the first time, can go back all the way to the point where light first broke free from the primordial Big Bang. At first, everything, photons, were bound tightly to the atoms. They could not escape. But at 380,000 years old, the universe was at the age where photons broke free, and we can see back all the way to then. We've seen a galaxy that approximately is about 13 billion years old. The universe itself is not quite 14 billion years old. So that's the farthest back thing they've seen so far. And to their surprise, these young galaxies look like modern galaxies, which their models did not predict at all. It was a complete surprise. Yep. Very good, Paul. Don't let Paul be the only one to ask questions, please.
All right, so our next online question is, why were the meteor showers named after where they seem to originate from instead of named after the comet they're caused by?
Oh, that's a great question. Why would meteor showers be named not? Why wouldn't they be named for the comet that created them? Well, comets weren't recognized for what they were or the fact that they left trails eons ago. Our ancestors could see meteors and they saw hairy stars, but they had no idea what a comet was. They thought it was an omen. Later on, astronomers studied their orbits and realized that these were objects that orbited the sun like planets, and then only after much study did they make the connection between the debris left by a comet and the meteor shower. So it's a matter of history.
All right, another question from our... Perfect. People are actually taking my advice this time. I can find you.
So I know in the past couple of years they've actually visualized and taken images of black holes, which was amazing, right? But you mentioned Cygnus X1 was the first one that was discovered. And since no light, nothing can escape, how'd they find it?
Excellent question. How could they find a black hole if there's no light coming out of it? The black hole at Cygnus X1 is part of a binary pair, a black hole and a star orbiting each other mutually. Right now, because they're so close to one another, the black hole's gravity is so powerful that it picks off material from the star at a Roche limit, a Roche point. That's the gravitational point where stuff can escape. So the black hole is actually breaking up the star. Stuff that escapes from the star spirals around the black hole. As it's drawn in, it heats up to millions of degrees, and because that glows so hot, it gives off X-rays. So we detect the radiation coming off of the disk of gas around the black hole, not the black hole itself. And that's the only way you can detect that the black hole is there. Now, that's going to make it very hard to find planet 9 in our solar system if planet 9 exists, because there's an alternate theory that we have a massive object out in the outer solar system influencing the orbit of the dwarf planets. Five dwarf planets or more have their close points lined up in the same place, and that should be only because there's a massive object out there. The new theory is instead of a big planet, it might be a black hole. How are we going to see that? Very tough.
Not with our naked eye.
No.
Right, so our next online question has to do with eclipses. Is it possible to get total eclipses of the sun or their moons from other planets in the solar system?
Difficult. We have a unique coincidence with our moon going around the Earth. It's 400 times closer to us than the sun, but the sun is 400 times bigger. So it's a miraculous coincidence that we just happen to have the right lineup. Now, that might happen for maybe, I'd have to check that. Some of the moons of Saturn or Jupiter. For instance, the moons of Mars are too small to do that. When Phobos, the inner moon of Mars, goes in front of the sun, it covers only about a third. So I would say offhand, probably not. I don't think they have total eclipses anywhere else, but I could be wrong, so I'll have to look into that.
All right, another question here. All right, so I am getting down to the end of our online questions, so I am going to put out a last call for any online viewers to get your questions in if you would like them asked. If you do not want me speaking them out loud now, you can always add them onto the comments in the YouTube video later, and I do occasionally check those and go try and get those answered. So our next online question is actually more of a joke. Saturn might be in Aquarius and in opposition, but is Mercury in Gatorade?
I'll say sure.
So they're referring to retrograde, where it appears that Mercury is backing it up and going in the opposite direction.
If you like playing with words like that and science, check out the long out of print book, Science Made Stupid. Science Made Stupid by Tom Weller. The whole thing is online, available free.
All right. So I have one last online question but first, is there another question from our audience here? Perfect.
Yeah, our audience has gotten bolder. See,
Hi.
Dave and Paul were good examples.
So just a general question, I guess. Is there any discoveries you're kind of waiting for more information to come out that would like confirm it in a way? So like, I guess for an example, there's that one article that came out that suggested that the universe could be like 26 billion years old, I think, instead of like the consensus that it's 14 billion, like anything like that, generally speaking.
I have not heard of that. There is the point that we can't see the entire universe. It is probably much bigger than what we see, and the evidence so far from the cosmic microwave background suggests that the universe is not flat, that it does have some curvature. But I had not heard about a difference in the age. What I did hear is that there's different measurements that conflict for the Hubble constant, which tells us how fast the universe is expanding. And in fact, if you go on YouTube and look for Sabina Hassenfelder's Science Without the Gobbledygook, nice series, Science Without the Gobbledygook, Hassenfelder, she has a couple videos that show that the universe might not be accelerating the way we think it is at all, because we live on the edge of a void, and the people who took the measurement looked in only one direction. And also, there's another idea, new idea, dark matter might not be as prevalent as we think. So there's all kinds of things that I'm waiting for more information on. Also, I've been waiting forever to see if there's an extra particle beyond the standard model in physics. We have all kinds of expensive experiments going on. The latest one just failed to find axions. So I think personally that we're looking in the wrong direction for that kind of stuff. What I am waiting for confirmation, and I think will happen within my lifetime and a lot of yours, is there life inside the moons of giant planets? The moon Europa of Jupiter and the moon Enceladus of Saturn are prime candidates because they have geysers coming out of them. We know there's water. We know there's organic matter coming out of that. And I'm hoping for a probe that will not only land, but drill down. Unfortunately, the probe set for the late 2020s to Europa, I don't think it's going to have something that drills. So I'm hoping to make it to Halley's Comet in 2061. Within our lifetimes, I think we'll know if life evolved independently of Earth in our solar system. I'm waiting for that.
All
Good
right.
question.
So our last online question is, just like we will eventually have a new pole star as we wobble on our axis, will we eventually get a southern pole star?
Yes, and I don't know which one that will be. I've never seen any astronomer talk about that. There's a long wait. It's probably a few thousand years, but it'll be worth it. So I'll look it up. Thank you.
All right. So last chance for any questions from our audience here. Oh, hold on. Well,
Saturn on the 27th. Do I need a telescope, or will I be able to
No.
see
Well,
it?
you'll see Saturn with the naked eye as a bright yellow star. You'll see it even now, anytime this month into next month. You won't see the rings of Saturn, which are starting to close up. They were wide open some years back, but they're starting to close. And you can see that in even a small telescope. Not a pair of binoculars, but a small telescope. Next year, toward the end of next year, the rings will disappear because they are so thin compared to the 170,000 miles wide. They're only 10 meters thick, about 30 feet. So you cannot make a model thin enough. I once spray painted little spray paint onto plexiglass to represent the rings of Saturn around a small model about that big. That was still too big by hundreds of times. The microscopic flecks of paint were too big. Yeah, good question. So you'll see Saturn with your unaided eye low in the southeast coming up. Better and better if you wait later in the month or if you wait later at night. And you need a small telescope at least to see the rings.
and when it's not hazy, it's usually one of the favorites for any of the volunteers here who run the telescopes to actually allow you to look through the telescope and see Saturn. So I don't know, like I said, unfortunately, I don't know if I have any telescopes open, but you can always ask because the worst they're going to say is no. The best they're going to say is sure. So, that being said, I want to thank you all for joining us, both here in person and online. You've been a great audience. Thank you, Lonnie, for another great talk.
And don't forget, this wouldn't be possible without volunteers like Kim and Chris and Paul and a whole slew of us. So if you feel so inclined, there's a donation bottle. And please do come on back and look at our exhibits. Check the gift shop.
Yeah. Plus, we also have a
Thank you.
Patreon, so you can always subscribe on there. And plus, there's some neat things you can get if you do so there, as well as through the register. If you do the $20 donation or spend $20, you will get a star on our doors. I'm probably going to move to that door soon because that one's getting kind of full. All right. So
Thank
with
you.
that, have a good night.
Good night. Thanks.